right, Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. It's a beautiful fall day in Chicago.
What's the temperature out there? It's starting to get a little chilly here in Indianapolis.
It's chillier here, but this is it's comfortable.
That's good. That's good. Cool. Maybe we give just a minute or two while more people are trickling in.
Sure. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad to have you here. I'll leave it to you.
All right.
Let us know when we get rolling.
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and get started.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. This is the third episode of our first season. We're doing 8 sessions where we dive into a variety of different topics about the intersection of Web3 and loyalty. And my name's Connor. I'm the founder, co-founder and CEO. This is my co-founder, Chris. And we're extremely excited about our topic today. And I'm going to walk through, or I'm going to pass it over to Chris to kick us off here.
Yeah, so if you've been following along on LinkedIn, then you probably already know that today we're going to be spotlighting one of the brands that we really admire at Flaunt, and that's Lacoste. So today we're going to walk through their approach to Web3 so far, why we believe this is absolutely a brand loyalty exercise and a project that is part of their overall brand loyalty strategy. And then we're going to have a little surprise at the end. So make sure you stick around till the end. And yeah, let's get right into it. So so before we dive into Lacoste, I think it's just sort of worth mentioning how we at Flaunt evaluate a Web3 powered loyalty program. And so as we've covered in our first couple of episodes, Web3 technology enables some really unique things that have been that just haven't been possible before. And the most important thing is that it shifts the power of ownership back to the customer. And from that, as a first principle, brands have been able to access a special opportunity to create invested fans and advocates who turn around and spread the word in a multitude of ways. And if you think about it, we're actually doing that for the next half hour. Connor and I are both a part of their Web3 community, and we're going to be spending half an hour talking to all of you fine people about Lacoste. So think about us the next time you're in the mall and see one of their shirts. But other ways that we evaluate a Web3 loyalty program: how well are they facilitating an engaged community? How useful is this asset across a consumer's web and in real life experience? And then technologically, is this something that is accessible to anyone? And typically on that scale, a brand is going to fall in either one of 2 buckets. It's either something that they're doing to really engage a Web3 native audience, and they're not super interested in appealing to their broader customer base who's maybe never created a MetaMask wallet before, or on the other, there are plenty of brands that are starting to dabble in making this really accessible using credit cards to purchase NFTs and so forth. Okay, so why did Lacoste launch this NFT-based membership program? This is their now Deputy CEO, Catherine Spindler, and some of the things that she mentioned in their initial press release around this program is that they, as a brand, really support the decentralization phenomenon that's being driven by Web3. And for all the sort of Web3 junkies on the phone, you know very well what that means. If that is a bit more of a mystery to you, then let us know after the call. We'd be happy to sort of break down all the details around the blockchain and what decentralization actually means in this instance. They're also using it as an opportunity to really honor the brand's history and inject some interesting storytelling into the project. And then finally, they're using it as an opportunity to bring together communities and connect cultures. And one of the really unique and cool things about blockchain is it's borderless. And so Lacoste is using this as an opportunity to bring together people from all over the world around their shared interests and love of the brand. So how are they doing this? Well, according to them, and as you'll see throughout the rest of the presentation today, through an experiential, interactive, and co-creative universe. So at the highest level, what Lacoste is doing is putting the community first, with the idea of co-creation really at the forefront. And we're gonna double click into that in just a second. They're also including various benefits and experiences. And then finally, they've rolled out a super, super exciting roadmap that I will walk you through at the end, which is headed straight to the metaverse, which is really exciting.
And now, Chris,
So
this is called the UND W3. They're referring to that as their underwater experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to highlight exactly what that looks like and what that means in a second. But in a nutshell, they are creating an NFT-based membership program that they're calling their underwater experience. Although, you know, on the surface, just looking at the UND W3, it takes a little bit more interpretation than that. But yeah, that's exactly right, Connor. Thanks for that clarification. Cool. So it all starts with a crocodile NFT. So on the left, you are looking at one of the underwater Genesis passes. And this is the original NFT that Lacoste launched as they launched their Web3 strategy. So this program kicked off in June 2022. There are exactly 11,212 of these. And that's a significant number for the brand, in that the first polo that was designed by Rene Lacoste was the model for that was the L1212, I believe it was. And so there are 11,212 of these. They all have the exact same design. And what they did was they held a public mint, and basically they had 55,000 people sign up to have the opportunity to purchase one of these things. They did that via a raffle, and from there, the raffle winners were able to actually go ahead and purchase one of these. And they did this on the Ethereum blockchain, so you'll see that the price here is denominated in ETH, but just to make it really simple and straightforward, I've converted that to USD based on yesterday's exchange rate as I was putting this together. So that original mint was somewhere around $104. The current secondary market value for that same pass today is just slightly more than that. It's just over $110.
And Chris, do you mind if I just you confirm my understanding, especially from the perspective of a loyalty marketer who may not be, you know, as familiar with Web3, and this is basically a membership that the customer actually owns and is tradable, right? They made this tradable.
Exactly
and
right.
They sold it and raffled it off. And even though it's resellable, it looks like the current market, because there are some of these that are floating around and trading for them, some trading going on. It's actually increased in value over the last, call it 4 months. Is that right? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. And as of yesterday, I think there were 10% of the total volume, so 10% of the 11,000 plus that are actually currently listed for sale on OpenSea, which is one of the primary NFT marketplaces. But you've hit the nail on the head, Connor.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. So that leads us then to the newest NFT in the collection, which actually just launched a couple weeks ago. And so you can see that there are exactly the same number of these, but rather than uniform design like you see on the left, all of these are completely unique. So they're using what's called in Web3 land, we call this a PFP or a profile picture sort of art direction. But you can see there's a crocodile here that is adorned in Lacoste garb, but each one of these 11,212 has a slight variation on the color of the skin, on the shirt that they're wearing, on the hat that they're wearing, and so forth. And instead of this being a public mint, a purchase opportunity, what they did was they took a snapshot of all the people who owned the Genesis Pass at a certain date and time, and they airdropped for free to all those Genesis holders one of the Emerge NFTs. So this was a project that the community engaged in, which I'm going to dive into in a second, that was actually free for them. And the current market value on that is $102. Yeah, Connor.
Okay, so you said a couple of words in there. You said project, you said airdropped. Could you, what exactly does that mean for, the average loyalty marketer that isn't familiar with our ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I say project, I'm talking about the actual specific collection of NFTs that is being used here. Now, in Lacoste's case, they now have two collections, which you could, in a way, consider to be two projects. But ultimately, I'm talking about a tradable membership that each of these pieces of media sort of represents symbolically. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and they actually just, rather than selling them, they gave them and sent them to the people that were hanging on effectively and decided not to trade their original Genesis Pass. So this was a reward, this new creative, thing that you can put, and people are putting this as their profile picture.
I currently have it as my Twitter profile picture right now.
It's not like every other loyalty program you see today.
Yeah. Cool. So how did we get from the Genesis Pass to the Emerge? I alluded to this very briefly, but I'm going to dive into it now because it has to do with co-creation. And so what Lacoste did is they actually left the design of these Emerge NFTs up to the community. And they did this through a series of votes, which included the general art direction, which you can see in the bottom left, the skin color I mentioned as an example, and then some of the other attributes as well. And so they actually put this up for a vote in the community platform that they're using on Discord, which I'll dive into in a second. And you could see here that the community members, the customers, had an opportunity to actually vote on what these NFTs might look like. And I don't know about you, Connor, but I'm personally very happy with where they netted out in comparison to some of the original designs.
Yeah, you can see some of them here in one of the bottom left image, some of those variations. There's been some people that have commented and aren't as happy with where they netted out, but I think that this where they decided was definitely the best of these options that they gave us earlier in the process.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So now we're going to actually give you all a voice and have you decide who wore it better between Connor's PFP and mine. And so I'm not going to tell you whose is whose just yet, but I can tell you that there's a lot of pride on the line here. So please put your votes in the chat. And Connor, if you can keep an eye on the chat for me, that would be great. I'm very curious to hear which one people like better.
Yep. I'll let you know. But as I mentioned, so far it's a split decision. And it looks like B's in the lead. So that's a bummer.
Nice. I personally, I like Connor's a little bit better, but yeah, happy to hear that.
Take the W there. Take it.
I'll take them when I can get them. All right. So back to it. Where else is customization and co-creation coming into play here? Well, this hasn't officially dropped yet, but there will be underwater community specific merch that the community is going to have some sort of opportunity to customize, or at least that's what they've alluded to. So it sounds like later this year they're going to be doing a raffle for the first exclusive drop, and then have the rest of the community have the opportunity to buy it at a discount. And then they've also alluded to again the fact that customers and that are part of the community are going to have an opportunity to customize their merch. Not exactly sure what that's going to shake out to mean just yet. So we're going to stay tuned along with you on that one. Okay, so that covers co-creation. Now we're going to pull the curtains back on what they're doing to create interactive experiences for the community. So the first thing worth mentioning, and I brought this up a second ago, is where the community actually hangs out. And it turns out that's actually a pretty important decision for any loyalty program, but certainly for any NFT-based loyalty program as well. And they're currently on Discord, on a platform called Discord, which you can see here, which is common for most programs that are specifically targeting Web3 natives. And at Flaunt, like, we typically wouldn't recommend this approach, especially if you're looking to engage a broader audience and not just Web3 natives. Personally, I like to call Discord Slack on crack. And from looking at the visuals here, you can probably see why. If you've ever interacted with Slack, it's a very similar sort of interface, but there's a multitude of other really cool and powerful features. But to the end consumer, you know, it can just be overwhelming at times. So nonetheless, it has been a very useful platform for Lacoste so far. And actually earlier this week, their VP of brand experience mentioned that they've had over 1 million messages to date in the platform. And so just a couple things to dive in a little bit deeper on here. So one is, you can see as of a few days ago, they have almost 61,000 people that are actually in this Discord server or community. And these people all have access to a variety of different sub-channels to be able to, you know, interact and engage with people on specific topics, whether it's Web3, tennis, you know, things that are all kind of in the realm of what this brand is all about. But what's really cool, the 11,212 people who actually own the NFT have a specific sort of sub area within the Discord server to be able to interact and engage with each other, and the brand can communicate to them specifically as well. And then in terms of what they have done specifically to create engagement with the community beyond just the platform that they're using, part of it is just getting out of the way and letting the community interact with each other. And you saw that a second ago. But it's also important as a brand to introduce some creative on-brand ways of prompting different discussions. And so, as you probably know, Lacoste is a major sponsor for the US Open, including a number of the athletes that participate in it. And so for this year's Open, they did a New York City tennis challenge with a bunch of tournament-related trivia questions. So everything from how much time did Medvedev's last match go on for, and what color did he wear during the tournament, just as an example. And then the winners actually received Lacoste merch. Now, the first prize winner, I believe, received a prize no matter what. The second prize through fifth prize, you can see, were sort of contingent upon Medvedev winning or reaching a certain stage. And so I guess, Connor, the French just don't believe in participation trophies. I don't know.
Nor should they, I guess.
Nor should they. Move on then on interactive experiences. We've talked a little bit about some of the digital experiences, but they're also using this opportunity to get people together in person. And so around the launch in June, they did an exclusive in real life event in their flagship store in Paris. And there were only 50 available attendee slots. So it was fairly small. I know they have another event that's planned for New York City coming up very soon. So that's interactive experiences. The last piece that we talked about was the roadmap that they've teased out. And to start out with, you can see that essentially what's been rolled out so far, we've encapsulated for the most part over the previous slides. You know, we talked about the Discord, the Genesis Pass, and the creation of the PFP, holders only event, and so forth. But looking ahead, they have teased a number of things that get the community really excited. I can certainly speak for myself that I'm looking forward to some of these rolling out. And some are intentionally ambiguous, but a number of them that I would say really pique our interest at Flaunt are some of the mentions of augmented reality, the future NFT drops that they're going to be doing, which presumably will be redeemable for special brand perks, and then the ride to the metaverse. To the metaverses, plural. So that really starts to beg the question around what their future roadmap might look like as far as that side of things goes. And I think it's worth mentioning that earlier this year, totally separate from the underwater program, they rolled out a game in Minecraft called Croco Island. And today, the major gaming platforms like Roblox, Fortnite, and Minecraft are not blockchain or Web3 compatible. And Minecraft actually released a statement in July saying that NFTs are generally not something that they are going to support or allow. But as this technology becomes, more pervasive, we obviously believe at Flaunt that these major platforms are just going to be forced with some really serious pressure. And candidly, like an opportunity to adopt Web3 and NFTs as interoperable, whether it's in-game rewards, tools, avatar enhancers, you name it. We believe that there's a huge opportunity for NFTs to play a role in the metaverse on some of those major platforms. Because that's the approach that Decentraland is taking. For instance, if you're familiar with them, they're one of the leading emerging platforms for the metaverse, but they simply don't have the active users that some of these other platforms have. So nonetheless,
as a former Roblox employee, I can speak that they have at least one open role for Web3 engineers, and they have the approach that they want to give developers the tools that they want in order to create the most immersive experiences. So we think it'll happen eventually.
That's some alpha there. So keep an eye out for that. Cool. So we have 7 minutes left here. So I'm going to punch through this because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for our surprise at the end. So just a quick recap. What is a loyalty program without benefits? So just a quick summary of some of the benefits that we alluded to today that have rolled out so far. So you can see here that they have rolled out exclusive merch for the underwater community. That fits in this bucket of sort of transactional benefits that we think of at Flaunt. There is the experiential bucket, prizes in the Discord, quizzes and games, the PFP avatar drop, and then finally the community building aspect. And really, I would say here that you can clearly see that they have decided to err more on the experiences and community building side of this spectrum, which is great. And frankly, a lot of brands that have entered Web3 are not doing that. But we're hopeful that they will continue to use NFTs to tie more into their core business and loyalty strategy and inject some additional transactional benefits as well. So a couple of things that we love: liquid ownership of a brand membership. Connor talked about that at the top. That's just kind of a philosophical view that we abide by at Flaunt. That's really powerful in terms of how we think about the future of loyalty and the next era of creating loyalty. Obviously, the co-creation efforts and some of the intriguing things that they've teased out in their roadmap. And then it's just a well-moderated, highly active community, as we talked about with Discord. Some things that we'd love to see in the future would be, just increasing the reach and access to this community to all Lacoste customers. So removing some of the complexity of Web3 and putting that in the background, plus maybe creating opportunities to earn different NFTs or membership passes. You can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, this is kind of a visual of the Flaunt platform, an illustrative example using Lacoste branding of what this might look like if they were making it accessible to everybody. And on the bottom left, you can note the fact that they have the opportunity to pay with a credit card. I mentioned this a second ago, but integrating more deeply with the Lacoste core business. If I show up to a Lacoste store in the mall, it would be awesome if I was recognized as a underwater membership holder. And then finally, more multiversal experiences and benefits, whether that's tapping into some of the unique things that Instagram is now rolling out with regard to honoring digital collectibles and NFTs, the metaverse side of things, and then the IRL side of things. So back to our evaluation, how does Lacoste stack up? I'm not gonna time on this because I want to get to the surprise, but you can see where we've kind of evaluated Lacoste against some of these attributes. The areas that we're really excited to see play out are mostly in the bottom two camps, as we just mentioned.
Yeah,
so
I think
Connor,
we would love to see this, which is now 60,000, accessible to the probably upwards of millions of people that are in their traditional loyalty program. This is something that's really exciting to be a part of. Obviously, we're excited. We just spent 27 minutes talking about it, but I'm happy to kick it over to our surprise, Chris.
Yeah, so typically we would do a Q&A where we'd ask you to put questions in there for us, and please feel free to do that and we'd be happy to answer them. But we also want to give you the opportunity to ask Lacoste any questions that you have about their program. So unfortunately, they couldn't join us today, but they do have an Ask Me Anything channel in their Discord. Connor, if you want to go ahead, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Excellent.
But please do feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and Connor is going to ask them live to Lacoste. And then on next week's episode, we are going to reveal the answers. So you'll have to tune in same time next Wednesday to find out what they say.
And just as people feel free to drop one in the chat. I'm gonna ask whether there are plans to actually start to integrate this as part of their Le Club Lacoste, which is a much more far-reaching, albeit much less engaging and less differentiated version of the loyalty program. Chris, any questions from you?
We've got one more in here about just some of their future plans for the metaverse and how they're thinking about that.
Awesome.
Give it one more minute here, see if any more questions drop in. But as we kind of conclude here, guys, I know we're coming up on time. Just want to thank you again for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you on our upcoming webinars as well. Is it possible to get an NFT as of right now? Is one of the questions. Yes, the answer is yes, and I will go ahead and send you that link directly.
Yeah, I think, Chris, you mentioned that both the unique profile picture projects as well as the original Genesis Pass are both in around.
They're both for sale.
Both for sale from existing, customers that own them on the secondary market for about $100. Is that right, Chris?
That's correct. Both of the floor prices are right around $100 USD.
And as Chris mentioned, you could see that owning those gets you access, because I verified my ownership. I can access exclusive channels that only holders of the memberships are able to access. So I'll go ahead and submit these as questions, and we'll let you know what the results were in our next week's webinar. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time, everybody. Thanks.